So we've just concluded the second day of a 2-day ASPIS Open Symposium meeting. 200 people were in attendance. Many of them actually participates directly with the 3 projects, PrecisionTox, OnTox, and Risk Hunter. But half of yesterday's crowd was made up of our relevant stakeholders. That would include industry representatives and specialists, people who are working for the government agencies, the regulators, the policy makers, the risk assessors. And most importantly as well, I think, is the blend of cohesiveness, I suppose, in the knowledge that this is the future of moving away from using animals in order to determine whether chemicals are safe, and using a more mechanistic understanding of toxicology, and hopefully in the near future be able to make regulatory decisions based on how chemistry perturbs biological processes that are really important for life. We've moved away from the aspirational discussions that were held during year 1 and year 2, and this time we started to see some data. We started to see some results, not just results from each of the 3 projects, but results that emanated specifically from the working groups that includes members of all 3 projects on some aspects of, for instance, using omics data in order to assess what it is that chemicals perturb at a biomolecular level, to be able to understand better around the aspects of exposure, around the kinetics. I think that what we've seen today is that each of the working groups had really done their job of providing case studies that will allow us to move beyond just understanding toxicology, but to using it appropriately as new approach methodologies in an actual risk assessment setting. The stakeholders are key here. All 3 projects are a research and innovation project, meaning that they're risky. They're looking to push the boundaries. But what's really important around this particular program is that the scientific boundaries are almost limitless, but they have to fit into our regulatory context. They have to be meaningful to those people who could make use of it in order to be better and more certain around the decisions that they make around the risks and hazards of chemicals. So we can only do that as scientists by co-designing the projects, and to really fully understand that at the end of the day, there's going to have to be some requirements from the data in order for it to be evidence that is useful in a risk assessment context. 2 years ago, I set a distinct agenda for ASPIS, which was to really fully elaborate on what we mean by a mechanistic understanding of toxicology. And so that required really coming up with our own definition of what a new approach methodology is, one that fits the science that is being pursued by all 3 projects, but also to explore fully how it is that technologies such as omics can actually be useful in a risk assessment framework. So we've built upon the earlier years around the ASPA, the workflow of using NAMs within a risk assessment context. But what we've also done is that we've come to a better understanding of how new approach methodologies are not simply or only useful for assessing harm to humans, but also can be equally applied for also addressing the environmental health issues, the biodiversity issues. So that comes from the blending of the 3 projects, where in particular PrecisionTox has, let's say, broader appreciation of the biodiversity that is impacted by chemicals. But finally, at the end of the day, I think that my greatest happiness around the last 18 months was really to create and to build a early careers research network that we call the ASPIS Academy. And now it's running fully on its own steam. It is run by the early career researchers. It's getting the support of the 3 coordinators in ASPIS. And it's now blending into equally important groupings of early career researchers in other projects such as PARC. And so we're seeing something here that may very well represent an ASPIS legacy, where the ASPIS Academy will probably continue to grow, but at the same time, it's growing by training the next generation of environmentalists and chemical risk assessors and policymakers. And I think that that's probably going to be something that we'll reflect upon in the future and say, yeah, I think that we did something really well there. during the middle tenureship of the ASPIS cluster.